Southern Hemisphere versus Northern Hemisphere. Those games this weekend are going to determine quite a bit in the world rankings.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, look, that's obviously the World Rugby ranking updates for this week. We'll come back next week and we'll give you an update. So come back to the podcast. You guys will know everything going on because there's a lot to come. But now let's get into the latest news here before we get into the discussion of the games. And the first bit of latest news is that the Fijian Drua will confirm their home base for the Super Rugby Pacific, and that is Lennox Heads. So the Fijian Drua will be based in Lennox Heads in New South Wales for the 2022 Super Rugby Pacific season. Basically, this is very close to the Gold Coast, so I think they don't know their home game yet. I don't think they know where their home games will be unless they're going to play at the Lennox Heads Smalls ground. It'd be awesome if they use Seabus Super Stadium, the Gold Coast Titans home ground, because Lennox Heads is only about like an hour and a half drive, I think it is, south, and obviously Byron Bay and Lennox Heads aren't really a place that I guess you would expect them to be playing games out of. So I'm assuming that they'll probably say it's about an hour drive. I'd say it's probably going to be played out of, you could even argue Tweed or Burleigh Stadium, but it's Super Rugby. So if it's Crusaders versus the Fijian Drua, I expect it to be at the Gold Coast Seabus Stadium. What would you say to all this?
I'm looking forward to seeing Fijian Drua in action because we do know quite a bit about Moana Pacifica in terms of who they have signed so far. Whereas Fijian Drua, it's slightly more, I guess, secretive at this point. We know about 10 of the new signings that are going to be included, which is pretty awesome to see. And I think we touched on it when it first was announced as well, that they were going to be based out of Australia, that we were hoping that there'd be a few games in Fiji and also in the islands for these Moana Pacifica and Fijian Drua sides so that they could kind of promote the game a little bit more. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do in the Super Rugby competition. And I feel like they could easily fill up Seabus Super Stadium.
Absolutely.
For that game.
Especially with New Zealand versus the Fiji, because Fijians are a massive population mainly actually in Sydney. There's actually a lot more Fijians in Western Sydney than there is in the Gold Coast area, but there's a lot of Kiwis on the Gold Coast. So no matter what, you'll probably see a very solid crowd there for Crusaders, Chiefs, Highlanders, who's the other teams right now? Blues and Hurricanes. That would be the big five there. I don't see Fiji and Drua versus an Australian team doing too well in regards to crowds. So maybe, no, because I know Australians don't care about
Reds or Brumbies.
Reds maybe, but Reds still don't have a fantastic support base right now.
I mean, they filled up Suncorp not too badly for Super Rugby AU, yeah.
Really? Okay, well, there you go. But I think they'd have to choose wisely what games they take to Seabus personally. I think that, honestly, they could. The thing is, man, the biggest part is that in the NRL, we've seen with the Warriors, they're based at Redcliffe this year. But halfway through the year, they're allowed to go back to New Zealand. So we've seen that in June is when they can get their first game back at Mount Smart in New Zealand. So hopefully, the Super Rugby Draw hasn't come out yet. Hopefully, we see that Fiji, considering that the borders are open there from the 1st of December, I know this because I'm going back there, from the 1st of December, the borders are open. So maybe they get a few games in Lennox Head for the time being, the first half of the season. And then maybe we might get a couple of games in Suva, Lautoka, and Singatoka, something like that.
That would be awesome. That would be absolutely incredible to see the atmosphere. Because when was the last live game in Fiji?
The last game in Fiji would have been 2019 NRC probably.
So it's been
They weren't great. They weren't great in 2019. They weren't great in 2019, but they were very good in 2018. I think they won. Well, actually, did they win 20? Anyway, we shouldn't keep going on because this podcast will go forever. But yeah, it'll be awesome to see that. Now, the next bit of topic that we have to speak about. Java.